Schweitzer from Montana. I want you to talk about what you see as the way forward, given the court's decisions, given the lay of the land as it is right now.
Well, one of the ways forward is people haven't thought about this. So what about foreign corporations? What about corporations that are organized by persons, but those persons are in part or wholly owned by foreigners? Let's take Citgo, for example, owned by Venezuela, sells oil and gas in the United States, the Northeast, as many of you filled up at Citgo stations. Well, if Venezuela wants to affect the politics of the United States, why wouldn't they just dump $1 billion or $2 billion into congressional races? British Petroleum. How about Iran? Iran is concerned right now about the politics of the United States. Why wouldn't they just spend a few $1 billion through one of their subsidiary corporations, and then they can influence the elections, and they will find people friendly to Iran to be elected? Do you understand where this might be going? Here's a couple of things we need to do. Number one, we ought to pass legislation. Okay, we say Citizens United, it's a law of the land, persons can organize as a corporation, but you have to prove that more than 95% of the persons and money in this corporation are American. We're not going to allow foreigners to own our politics. Public financing of elections, yes. Allow people who are running and not taking these big dollars from rich individuals or corporations to have a fighting chance with public financing. But third, I'm an optimist. I think as more and more people get their information from the internet, we're able to micro-target individuals with a message. It's these 30-second ads on television and people who are watching television. But 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're not going to be able to see these 30-second ads that cost $1 gazillion influence folks. The internet is going to make it easier and easier for people with less dollars to get their message directly to the people they want to speak to.
One thing that can't be overstated enough, and I think people that aren't politicians themselves, you cannot appreciate the fact that you do two things as a politician. You raise money for about 90% of the time, and then you run ads for the last 10%. That's what you do. That's what running for office is. We see all the theatrics of, like, I'm licking the ice cream cone at the county fair, and I'm like showing up to talk to the local chamber of commerce. But no, what you're doing is you're raising money to run ads. Ads are very expensive. Ads are what basically move the needle more than anything. And so that's what people have to understand. Like, that's the ball game if you're running for office.
So right now, the United States, Governor, I'm actually interested in hearing your opinion on this. I think that the United States now is kind of perceived as the place that is supposed to be symbolic of the most modern, advanced democracy actually is the place that now, if you have the most money, you can actually buy the election now. Around the world, the United States is being looked at like what is going on in your country? And what I wanted to ask you, Governor, precisely on a day like today where there are elections happening in Mexico, the country where I was born, but I'm no longer a citizen of, I'm a citizen of the United States. But right now in Mexico, up until this election, there was all kinds of limits on spending, on what you can say in ads, what you can't say in ads. This is a country that for years, decades, had one party basically. Now they've gone into, a lot more regulation. So is that what you're saying is also maybe the United States starts needing to look to places like Mexico to learn something about how to run more effective campaigns where spending is not out of control?
Either we can look in the rearview mirror because we had systems that were working, or we can look at other systems around the world. But either way, we are now that beacon of hope at the top of the mountain, that big light, but the light is paid for by General Electric. We are no longer the place that people look to for clean elections. People understand around the world that in the United States, we spend 100 times, 1,000 times more per elected official than any place else in the world. Now, it's tough when you have the news being delivered by television stations who are filling their pockets with this money, that are delivering information. Why would they be against a system that's making them rich?
That's actually a really great point. And this is something we've been talking about on the staff editorially about covering, is that there is a winner in all this, which is the campaign industrial complex, which is getting. The more money that's in there, the more money to pay for ads, and that's particularly true for local television stations and such. Governor Brian Schweitzer of Montana, great pleasure to have you on. Come back anytime. If you're ever through New York, I'd love to have you at the table.